good boy. Thor, touch. Yes. Sit. Look. Yes, great job. Good job, Thor. Thor, place. Yes, good boy. Sit. Yes. You see, we're already looking. Yes, good boy. Good job. Okay, break. Oh. Thor, touch. Yes, good job. Okay, this video is going over recall. And recall just means having your pup come when they are called. And this is what I consider to be the most important skill for any dog to have in terms of safety. So we always put a very strong emphasis on this skill throughout our board and train and our day school program and our boarding program. In my opinion, you cannot practice recall too much. And we actually use two different commands for recall. One is here, which is of course self-explanatory. He's going to come right in front of you. And then touch is where he taps his nose against your two fingers. Now we do have our generic video on touch and the sister command look. So make sure you watch that one. It's with a pup named Goldie, but everything still applies and is relevant. It's the same exact information. He's doing phenomenal with touch. It's the first command we teach here because it can be used in a variety of different scenarios. So it can be used for recall, but it can also just be used when he's really distracted, not listening, and we need to have a way to get his attention and focus back on us. The way we teach it, just so you know, because it'll explain why it's so easy to teach and also why we use two fingers and not the whole palm, is because we take a treat and we hold it with our fingers here, and then we have our other two out. And on day one, basically they're just coming, they're sniffing the treat, and we'll say yes, and then we'll release it, and we'll just practice. Okay, when our fingers are out like this, they go to tap it, and then we can immediately reward. And again, then we have a way to get their attention and focus back on us, and also get them to recall back to us very, very quickly, which again, so important from a safety standpoint, but just training in general, we need to be able to get their focus back on us. So super simple. You don't need to have a treat at this point. No treat. Touch. Yes, good boy. Good job. So that is touch. But again, there's more info in that generic video. Now, when it comes to recall, there's several different ways that I want you to reinforce this skill. He's done a phenomenal job. He's done really, really well. Here I don't have quite as much space for him to recall through, but at Alex's house, she's got a pretty big yard, almost as big as this back area that I've got. And he's been doing great, even with other dogs around, which is always really important. In the 2-week program, we don't get to a ton of distraction work, but he was able to do some distraction work with recall, which is super important. So we just want you to reinforce this skill at home, and there's several ways we want you to do that. So the first one is random recall, and that's just where several times a day, at least 5, I would set that as your first goal. You can up it if you'd like, but basically if he's at a distance from you, you're just going to recall him over here. Yes, sit. Yes, good boy. Sorry, look. Yes, good boy. And then you'll stack other commands on top. And again, you don't have to use here. You can use touch. We want you to switch it up. Thor, touch. Yes, good boy. That's so good. Good job with that happy tail. Sit. Yes, you're doing it. Touch. Sit. Yes. Look. Yes. Good job. And you'll notice that he is starting to offer a default sit after he is recalled, which is also something we work on, and I want you to work on too. So it doesn't have to be a sit, but it's a really good habit to get into, is recall him and then have him sit. But then I also want you to go through other commands. And this is for several reasons, but the most important reason why you should always stack other commands on top of your recall work is to make sure he understands that when he recalls, we want him to stay locked in and focused. It's not just checking a box. That is something we just commonly see with dogs in general. Even dogs that have really great, reliable recall, they may come to you every single time, but they may just start right back to what they were doing. And then back to the safety thing, God forbid you see something in your yard that you think might be hazardous. Maybe it's as simple as like, oh, mushrooms started growing and you don't know if they're toxic. Or God forbid you see something like a snake in the backyard and you want to recall him back. If he sees it like checking a box, it's going to do us almost no good. Like maybe we can grab him fast enough, but we don't want to chance it. We want to make sure that he knows when he's recalled to us, he stays locked in and focused. So that's why we're going to stack other commands on top. Other reasons this is great, extra practice, is just If you don't use it, he will lose it. So if you're already going to take the 10 seconds it takes to do some recall work, you might as well practice things like, if you used here, practice touch, and then practice sit, and then practice look, or practice settle, and then place. Just stack as much as you can. If you start doing any trick training at home, like shake or roll over, you can stack that on top too. Totally fine. We don't do any trick work here just because, of course, we have limited time, and we just want to do the stuff that's really going to work from a behavioral standpoint that we can use to redirect a dog or reinforce good behavior, or just kind of set boundaries and things like that, obedience work. So we don't do tricks, but I think he would really enjoy learning some tricks, so you can definitely do that at home. We can do that on virtual support. It's never a waste of time. I'm always happy to walk you through how to do trick training. We just don't do it here. He comes back for boarding. You can request it, or day school, but just not when they're first starting out. So stack as much as you can on top. It'll help him learn that he's got to stay locked in and focused. We're using the other commands so he doesn't lose them. And the other big thing is it helps build positive association with recall. Recall, we always want it to be something fun. A common mistake we see when we don't stack any commands on top and we start to get to the point of training where we're just using it in our daily routine is that people will start to recall their dogs just at times where it's practical. So usually that's going to be, all right, it's time to go inside and go to the crate because we've got to go to work. Oh, it's time to get recalled because we're going to be locked in this room and out of the way, or whatever the case may be. And as much as the dog may enjoy their crate, and Thor is doing fantastic in his crate, he did a really good job with Alex, but I'm always impressed because sometimes there is regression when they move to a new environment or back home to their old environment. Some regression in the beginning is super, super normal. He has been with me and he has done great since Alex passed him off so I could do the videos. So really, really, really good. I'm very proud of him. So he likes this crate, but it's still not going to reinforce recall. Dogs start to catch on to our routine just so fast. Another example of this, and I always like to use it because I spent a lot of time in New York City. I lived there for almost 7 years and I worked with dogs kind of the whole time. So a common thing I would see with dogs is that you would take them out for a walk because people don't have yards in New York City. So you would take them out for a walk and they would just wait and wait and wait to go potty. And you know they have to go potty. They've been crated while their parents are at work or whatever the case may be. Or it's maybe even first thing in the morning and they are holding it. And the reason is they understand that as soon as they go potty, their walk is over and they have to go back inside, and the parent or the dog walker or the trainer, whoever it is going to leave them. And so it just really speaks to the fact that dogs are so smart. So we got to make sure that recall has a positive association and we're not just using it in those practical scenarios. Now we do want to use it there too, of course, but it can't be the only thing we use it for. So by stacking other commands on top, we're building positive association. Keep in mind, he likes to learn. He likes to show off his knowledge. He likes to get praise. He likes to get potential treats. You don't have to give him treats every time, but he likes that opportunity to learn and to get praise and earn treats. So stack them on top, build a positive association, make sure he knows that good things happen when I'm called. All right. So that's the first way, random recall with commands stacked on top, the long-winded version, but I think it's important information for you to have, especially for such an important skill. Now, the second way I want you to reinforce his recall training is by playing what we call the recall game. And that involves at least 2 people, but you can absolutely get more people involved. There's really not a limit. There's just a couple of rules to the game. And these are rules across the board for Thor's training. Number 1, only one person at a time should ever be giving him a command. I'm going to hold for this siren. Okay, it stopped. Okay, so rule number 1 for this game, but across the board in all the training, only one person at a time should ever be giving him a command. And rule number 2, whoever gives the command, that is the person to mark yes. So if I recall him over, I will say yes. But if someone else recalls him over, it'll be their job to mark yes. So just keep that in mind as you're going about this game and just in general with multiple people in the family. Whoever gives them the command, they should mark yes. So the way this game works is you're just going to spread out. So say I'm standing here and say Alex is standing against the ivy wall. We would just take turns calling him back and forth. So I would say Thor here, he would get to me and I would say, yes, good here. And then she would call him over. Maybe she'd use touch. So she'd say touch. And then he would go to her, tap his nose against her fingers and she'd mark yes. And then I can recall him back using touch or here. So basically we could do this like a game of ping pong back and forth. Or you can let him run around and play and make it a little bit more random. You can always do what I call the lazy version of this game. And this is where you're sitting down as a family, you're watching TV, and you wait until the ad break or the commercial break comes on. Everybody's got their treats ready to go in their pocket or their treat pouch, and then you will call them over. I do this a lot during football season because I am not the biggest football fan, but I like the social aspect of it. So we usually will have another couple over, or at least a friend over. And so what we'll do there is everyone who comes over is so supportive. All of our friends know, of course, when they walk into my house, they are part of Puppy Preps training, just by the sheer fact of its socialization and everything else. So what we'll do is we'll wait till the commercial break comes on during football. I'll pass out treats, and whatever puppy I'm working with, which I'm usually just focused on the dog during the game, I'm not watching. So it's a training opportunity for them, but I will let the dog interact with other people at ad break. I will pass out the treats and they'll just take turns calling the pup back and forth. So maybe one person's on the couch, one person's on the chair in the corner, maybe one person has meandered over into the kitchen. It's open so he can still get go get a treat from them and recall to them, etc. So I highly recommend you do this with the whole family, but also if you have guests over, because not only is it building trust with new people, great for socialization, but we want him to understand that when he's recalled by new people, he still needs to listen, because God forbid he gets out or he's at maybe a family member's house and they took him outside to go potty and they see something that could be hazardous, even if it's fenced in. We just want to make sure he's really, really got that skill down with multiple people. So practice that whichever way you want to do it, and it'll go a long way. And then lastly, I want you to reinforce recall with distractions. So if you're one-on-one with Thor, you've got a few minutes and you think he's ready. So first and foremost, for the first week at home, don't worry too much about distractions. He's got to build up his rapport with you guys from a training standpoint and understand everything still applies. But then what we'll do is we will take, if you're one-on-one with him and you think he's ready, we're going to do it in a very similar way to how we teach Leave It. And basically you're going to take a toy that he likes but he doesn't love. Keep in mind, everything at my house is novel and new, so it's not the best example. But let's just say we toss it out. Thor, here. Thor, here. Ah. Yeah, see, that's pretty exciting. Here. Yes, good boy. Thor, touch. Yes, good job. So that may have been a little too much of a challenge for him. Just everything is new. I just grabbed these toys out. I'm sure at Alex's house, he's got toys he's played with for the whole 2 weeks, and it'd be a little easier. The ball pit balls are also a good example. He just hasn't played with them either. We'll see. Thor, touch. Yes, good boy. Sit. Yes, good job. We're ignoring the ball that was still rolling away. Good job. Touch. Yes, recalling away from it. Good boy. Yes. And then he can go back to it if he wants. But basically, the idea here is to start with something that he likes, that he is interested in chasing at least, but he's not so obsessed with. So typically, it's going to be something like the ball pit balls. There's tons of them. It's not that exciting. We haven't had the ball pit out for him, so it is a little bit more exciting than it is for the pups that play in the ball pit. But still, not the most exciting toy. It's just round. There's nothing to it. It doesn't squeak. It's not like soft, whatever. So we're going to toss that out to the side, and then you're going to recall him back. And the ultimate goal is to get him to come back to you before he even gets to that distraction. So again, we're starting with maybe the toy that he ignores the most in his toy box. And then once he's gotten pretty good at that, recalling back and ignoring it, we're going to go up to a toy that he likes a little more and recall him back and give him lots of praise. And then we're going to move up to maybe a favorite toy. And then we'll go up to something novel and new. So a brand new toy that you're just getting out of the package, save those for once he is ready to go on distraction work after he will recall away from his favorite toy. Then you can take the new toy, recall him back, and then you're going to give it to him. And that part is really important. Same with when you recall him with, if I'm using a ball pit ball, now I know he likes the little shark, so I could replace it when he came back to me and ignored the ball pit ball. I could have that toy behind my back and throw that one, and he could play with it. But the goal is just to make sure he doesn't think that when he is recalled away, that he never gets to see that thing again. That can lead towards guarding. We talk about this a little bit in the drop it and leave it. So just keep that in mind. But basically, we want to make sure we have a higher value reward than the distraction always. So that's always a rule. If you start throwing kibble and you're recalling them back, have a training treat. If you use a training treat as a leave it or a recall away from, make sure that you've got like cheese or boiled chicken or something super, super exciting for him to get rewarded with. So that is kind of the basic rule of thumb, but you can always use like a toy as your reward. And if he does happen to bring the thing back to you, so if he goes to it, it's really no big deal. Don't tell him no. It's all right. Just make sure he recalls to you with the toy. He can bring the toy to you. We want him to really trust us to bring stuff back to us and know that he's going to get it. So if he does do it, we'll just say, here, hey, Thor, touch. Okay, well, we ignored the toy, but say he didn't and he brought the toy to me, we would just use drop it. I would reward him. I'd give him lots of praise. I'd probably give him a treat too. And then I would throw the toy. I'd re-engage because we want him to feel like he doesn't need to do this game of keep away and that he's never going to see the thing again. So that part is very important as well. All right, so that's how you're going to do it if you're one-on-one. Now, if you've got multiple people around, then I suggest having one person be the distraction. They can be just standing there in the very beginning. That is distraction enough. And then they can kind of move on. They could do like squeaking a toy or doing a funny dance or singing a song, something that's going to be a little funky for him and get his attention, and the other person's going to recall him with that. The only rules, again, is that the distraction person cannot say his name, and they should not be giving any kind of command. That's not fair. That's not setting them up for success. It's just really confusing. So just make sure you follow that. And then if you've got more than 2 people, you can get creative. 2 people can play the recall game. 1 person can be the distraction, vice versa, etc. Get really creative with it. Have fun. That's where it gets really exciting, is when we have multiple people and we sit down at the end of the night and we're like, let's do a training session. He's ready for distractions, and you can have fun as a family working on that. So build up to that after like a week or so and he'll be ready to go. But please let me know if you have any questions about that. Hey, no jumping. Yes, that's a good sit. You know how to get the pets. Good boy.